I should tell you are, James, and I don't have to look at it on the screen. And just see that tiny light on the back of my head.
Oh, yours passes down. No. Oh, this is the one thing. Okay.
I'm sure Amy would let you sit there.
Oh, I have most Amy's first. No, you can say me. I'll just put it, I don't like how first one.
I don't like.
You can say it.
Either.
I just didn't want to be.
Right.
So you should in front of you.
I usually have a chair, usually have a first chair too.
I don't like it. I've seen a little bit. Cookie things.
Oh, yeah, for the car.
Different cars.
Well, I don't know, I can have this.
How do you fit a car? What? It's like a little clip and you put it in the neck thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you just need your first, huh?
Hers is, but he's in his room.
Oh, these are minutes. Okay.
Sometimes he's a little sweeter than this. Bark at the phone the other day.
Oh, there we go. This is part of the minutes too. I was getting, oh. I'm so confused.
I know it's double-sided, it's like for 2 minutes.
Oh, wait.
No.
There's 3 pages? Yeah, it's.
Someone that can think like this.
I don't know what was going on with that printer.
Hold on.
She'll have 2 meetings in it.
So
That one.
So this one goes with, cause it said go to, I haven't moved this one, so.
The date at the bottom, March 24th.
Please, I'll be there.
Go together.
Oh, fine, anything.
We go together. This one. We go together. One, move. Oh, the 24th. Selected. On L.
No, no, observer. Yeah, public meeting attendee. Yeah. I would actually send,
He doesn't get to say.
I did, that would be really hard, but you know me well, and there's nothing. No, I was told there's 3 minutes to speak, and so I emailed Lindsay questions, and oh, Lindsay doesn't know I'm here, and now I'm here and Lindsay doesn't have to. I emailed you directly my handout, because it's backed up on the printer. Oh, let me see.
Right, is Lindsay the only one who's gonna be on Zoom or?
No, I'm here. I just wasn't sure about Tom.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, I don't see him up there.
Okay.
What do you probably do for Lindsay?
Okay, can you hear me then?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lindsay. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Tom can just
Ready
catch
to
up when
start?
he comes in and I'll just call the meeting to order.
Well, actually, I'm in the chair, so
What?
actually, when there's a council here, council member's the chair.
Well, that's okay. That's what wasn't told to me last time, so I was kind
Oh,
of
I understand.
confused.
You're
So
Well, you've been elected vice chair, correct?
I thought I thought I was chair, so I was just a little confused on everything because we didn't have a council member here.
No, we tried to figure out what's going on after Julia stepped down from council. We had to find a person to step in, and so until we find somebody who volunteers and says, I really want to do it, it's me.
Well, that's great. Then I can eat my lunch.
Yes, you can do that, so brilliant, but we appreciate you taking time to be here. So we need to shut the door, so we're not driving anybody crazy out there. All right, let's call this meeting to order then, and for the record, I think everybody's here except for Mr. Denley, right?
Some extra people.
Even some extra people, and so.
Yeah.
And we'll get to all of their items here in short order. So. The first thing that's on the active agenda is approving the minutes of the March 24, 2023 special meeting. I think everybody has read those minutes at me.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Lindsay. All right, so we got the motion to approve the meetings minutes. Let's go on to the next one. You know what, do we just want to give a motion all the way through and then just approve them all at once? You made the motion, are you okay with that?
I am.
Okay, and that's item A and B, the minutes of the June 21 special meeting as well. Lindsay, are you okay with seconding that?
Yeah,
All right, perfect. Is there any debate on this item? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes from the last 2 meetings, please signify by saying aye.
I,
All opposed, no. I also vote aye. Motion approved. All right, Community and Economic Development Director. All right, Mr. Martin, that is you.
Oh, yes. I don't know if I've had pleasure of meeting everybody here, but my name is Trevor Martin. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director for the city of Sunnyside. And kind of the reason I am here today is because I also have the city also has another commission. Lindsay used to be on that commission, the Community and Economic Development Commission, and I was kind of asked to come talk about. Well, what I had heard is that this LTAC was maybe looking at putting together a tourism plan. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to come introduce myself, kind of introduce the Community and Economic Development Commission and kind of what we're doing on our side, because I think what LTAC wants to do as far as a tourism plan will tie in really well with what the Community and Economic Development Commission wants to do in the near future. And I see a plan here from Burke that you may, I don't know if the community's kind of gone over this and looked at.
Yeah.
Burke is a fantastic firm. They're a fantastic firm to work with. So if there's any sort of like reference to go off of, anything put together by them would be great. But I'll go over a few examples, other examples here in a minute. So the Community and Economic Development Commission, we are going to be looking at putting together an economic development plan this year. And I think that tourism would be able to tie into that and have its own separate element within the economic development plan. I'll kind of had a couple loaded up here, and I'm going to share my screen here in just a second, Lindsay. And some of these are downtown plans, but you have a strategic tourism plan for Snohomish County. But let's see here. So all of these downtown plans, master plans, economic development plans, they all have tourism elements heavily integrated. Let's see if I can find something. So let's see. This is Clay Ellen Downtown Master Plan. So this when we talk about tourism, and this is where I'm going to need LTACs, and again I'm going to set aside some time for questions later on. But what I think LTAC could do moving forward with this, I think would be a great idea. Again, it's up to you, it's your committee. But when we move forward with our Community and Economic Development Plan, wrapping in a tourism element and providing some really strong language that bolsters tourism, and maybe goals, policies, and objectives that we want to see how to improve tourism in the future for Sunnyside. So that could be, for example, encouraging economic growth through the expansion of hotels, through local events, through maybe establishing like a downtown association. Just these little things that can help us strategize, help us market, help us host events, help us work with our community partners. So those types of little things, and if we can take those things from the tourism perspective, from a tourism point of view, work them in there, because it's all for this larger picture of creating economic development and helping move the city forward. Creating jobs, making Sunnyside a regional destination. We're in a great spot in the lower valley. We're in a really great spot logistically. We have a pretty large audience that we can capture along Highway 82. So there's a lot of opportunity here. So that's kind of what my ask of LTAC, kind of as we go into this moving forward, is kind of start thinking about those goals and objectives. Start thinking about where you see tourism in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Kind of think of it out there a little ways.
Come in.
Oh, you're okay.
I'll give you this one, and I don't know, those are, I'll grab one.
Recap that just a little bit quickly for Emily here.
For those of you who don't know, this is Tom Denley, as part of the committee.
That's been for a week or two.
My play closed today, so. Sorry, I'm late.
So just to kind of recap, we've met before, but I was kind of, my name is Trevor Martin, I'm the Community and Economic Development Director here for the city of Sunnyside. So what I've been talking about a little bit is we have a new commission, the Community and Economic Development Commission. And I've been working with them, and one of our future goals this year is to start an economic development plan. And so what I've been talking about a little bit is working toward and the functions of LPAC as a separate element into that economic development plan. So where we would like to see tourism, where we would like to see our goals and objectives, how we see tourism as an element that fuels Sunnyside in the future. So that's mostly what I have. Is there any questions, thoughts, comments?
I think it's about time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Are you gonna be working on like what's coming for it? That we have, I know with Gap vouchers, we have made some suggestions, I know they take them to hotel,
Mhm.
different areas. And I haven't seen the new recent one, I wasn't, not that meeting, but I know there was like a lot of food or places that were no longer existing, so I don't know, is that something you guys are gonna be kind of keeping up with? If it kind of ties in with tourism,
Yeah, we can
I don't know if that's something.
we can definitely look at that. I have not been involved with the creation of that pamphlet yet. I don't.
I know.
Already created,
It's already
updated.
It has been.
It's kind of running for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know a new version of it recently came out.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't seen it for, I'll bring you this,
yeah.
cause I know we worked on it. Well, the other meetings where they, you know, to update pictures and kind of focus on more, you know, stuff
So here's how so for the economic development plan, so this gets a little bit more, I'm gonna call this a little bit more nitty gritty than that.
Okay,
So what I plan for this economic development plan to go through the whole planning process. So what I would like to do is send out a public notice, kind of send out information saying these are our goals and objectives. And then host a couple of different open houses where we can invite the community. We can have different commission and committee members there that talk about their roles. And then we can do different rounds of like for better luck, maybe like a fishbowl study, or we could put together some like design standards or something like that and do like a charrette. So that way we can kind of garner and solicit some community feedback on what they want to see. And then work that feedback into a list of goals, policies, objectives. We can really kind of home on tourism. Really kind of do a deep dive into the job market, because if people, we can really get a hold of, we can do surveys, we can ask people, you know, where do you like there's a really simple survey out there that's like live, work, play. Where do you live, where do you work, where do you play? Do you live in Sunnyside, do you live outside of Sunnyside, do you work in Sunnyside, do you X, Y, and Z? You can really gather some really good information on this. And really work that into a plan. And I know Sunnyside has a huge population that they either work outside of the city, commute to the city, so there's lost revenue, lost dollars there. How do we get people to spend a little more time in Sunnyside, spend their money here?
Well, and particularly beyond tourism,
Mhm.
this committee is all about putting people in beds. So,
Yeah.
But we just know that the tourism element doesn't, this can't exist without the tourism.
Yes, so they all tie together, they all have to tie together. And I used to work there, and one of the things that Yakima put together this beautiful downtown master plan. It has a lot of good things in here. But they kind of talk about Pybus Market and different things like that, talk about anchors and street redevelopment. But what happened there is little things started being pulled out. And eventually the whole thing just fell apart. And this was, this plan wasn't more than 5 years old by the time it was rendered useless. So it really, that's one of the things I really want to be conscious of as we move forward, is we've got real, tangible, actual goals that we can achieve. But they gotta tie together, they gotta tie to heads and beds, they gotta tie to jobs, they gotta tie to job retention, they gotta tie to job recruitment. So all of these things play a role in one another. Yeah.
Any other questions? I would tend to agree with Mr. Denley in the fact that, yeah, this is far past due. I think we need to be proactive on these kinds of things, not reactive, and I think we've just been bubbling along for far too many years. It's time to start moving forward.
So, I'm just gonna get to Steve. I like what the direction you guys are going here. This is something that I'd like to see. Wanted to have for a long time. So are you gonna go in with some ideas to present, or are you just gonna go with a blank slate and wait?
So it needs to be the community's vision. I think that's important. There are ideas that we can take, we can learn from our partners, learn from our other co-partner cities in Washington. And we can use examples of things that have really worked and examples of things that have not worked. So we can do that. I'm certainly going to be able to bring some of those things forward and as conversation starters, as conversation pieces as we move forward. But I do want a lot of it community driven and neighborhood driven, job market driven, job creator driven. So that's something I do want to focus on. And I would like the plan to be assembled by cooperatively with the Community and Economic Development Commission and LTAC, because there's a big role to play for both parties. So I'll probably do the majority of the writing of it, but I'll be bringing it to the committees for their review and their feedback.
I would just add that when you, and I've seen this done a couple of times, sometimes it's worked very, very well. It worked extremely well in the gap. Kind of felt flat in process.
Yes.
And it's not the process doing necessarily a bad job, but you get a lot of people with disparate ideas, and what they did in each gap, where they had a facilitator, and that person was very good at kind of bringing us back.
Yes.
Bringing us back, because especially with tourism, there are lots of places people can live.
Yes.
And so what you have to do is you actually create a situation where you have something nobody else has. You've got a competitive advantage. It's not saying
Yeah.
we're exploited those.
We talked about that a lot in the past year.
Yeah. And again, I go back to Burke. I've worked with Burke, and this might be something we explore in the future, but there are some really, really fantastic firms out there, Burke being one of them, that do an excellent job facilitating. They make magic happen when it comes to bringing people together and creating consensus on different ideas. So
I would be happy to give you, I don't have any huge vision, but I'd happy to give you a couple of thoughts, and I'm sure each one of us here who are vested in this, shall we say, could probably filter you something.
And I think that's one of the reasons you wanted to bring it to LTAC, because everybody on the LTAC committee is vested in having tourists come into town and exploiting some of these options that we've got. Whether you're on the collecting the tax or receiving the tax side of it, you're going to have an interest in that. It's going to be important to each of us. So I think this is the first time you've presented in this committee, right?
this committee, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we've talked.
So it is, I think, a good idea for each of you then to spend a fair amount of time thinking about some ideas and email Trevor or call Trevor if you have an idea. But this is something that you're gonna have to start working around. Next meeting, we'll probably have that on the agenda and we'll talk about it some more, but you've got a great opportunity to be thinking about stuff. I don't know how it is when you guys are working. I work alone, so I have a lot of time to think about things and get things worked out in my head. And so I can send an email, I can make a phone call, I can do whatever if I've been thinking about it and get that taken care of. You may have slightly different situation where you're working with people all the time and you don't have that opportunity, but in your downtime, sometimes these things come up, and I just encourage you to take this seriously. I think we can do some good things, but we're gonna have to take it seriously, and it's not necessarily going to be LTAC driven. This is the Community Economic Development Committee that's going to be driving a lot of this, but we certainly can have a lot of input.
Would it fall under LTAC, like you say, if they were gonna do a certain project, are they able to?
LTAC is actually generally more interested in the disbursement of funds and making referrals. And so probably not a great deal, but you guys are especially positioned to have some great ideas.
Well, and the thing is, it wasn't being really done and we needed to, so I guess about a year ago, we started trying to expand on. Not doing it the same way every year, over and over and over. Add some things to events that were already taking place, so we've already had those ideas and had those conversations. We were putting policies in place so that it goes smoothly, and that's been done. I think we're, have we actually voted on the policy yet?
You adopted it.
Okay, so 2 meetings ago, we adopted the policy and to move forward. And so every person that was gonna come in front of us, every RFP that was gonna come in front of us, challenge them to do more, talk to them, be, well, what about a car show when you're doing this? Or what about, having somebody come in, what was your idea for Sunshine Days? It was brilliant. I know, it looks like stuff, so.
Okay, no, and that is all good, because we do need to challenge, because these events, if they start happening the same exact way every single time, they start to get a little boring.
Well, it's seed money and to fund seed money for
It's been
25
over and over
years.
again, you're right. So, and I'm glad you've done that work on the policy. I know when I was chairing a couple of years ago, then it was something that was being talked about, but we hadn't taken any steps on that. So when Ms. Hart begged pretty much to be chair of LTAC, that was one of the things that she really got excited about. So I'm glad you guys did that work. That's hard work. I don't want to try to diminish that in any way. It's difficult to do. So, but now there's something that you can kind of compare to your policy then and see how you fit into that.
Can you just share with me the Community Economic Development Committee? That's new, it is. How is that put together?
So that was formed by council prior to the pandemic, and then it sat vacant for a couple of years. The purpose was to give us as council a little bit more insight of what we can do in the city of Sunnyside to develop economically. It's easy for us to sit and do nothing and stagnate. And we see communities around us growing and diversifying their industries and doing different things. And who better to give us input than the people who are right there in the middle of it, people who own the businesses who are involved in these activities. And it took a long time with the pandemic and everything to get that committee filled. And then post-pandemic, there was a level of enthusiasm in the community for getting involved in things, which I found kind of exciting actually. And I had the opportunity to point all the people to that. Trevor's our staff rep and has been meeting with them regularly. I think it's an enthusiastic bunch. What are you guys working on right now?
So right now we're very, very close. We've been working on reviewing some of these master plan, economic development plans. We've been doing some of that. But most recently, we are working on I'm gonna call it micro, but a revolving loan fund. So low interest rate revolving loan fund for commercial businesses. So we're looking to fill a gap for newer businesses that may be having a harder time establishing a line of credit. They may have high interest rates or something like that. There's a small little area I think that the city can kind of step into to help finance and get some of these businesses off the ground. Have really low interest rates of 2-3% on some of these loans up to, I think you put a cap at $50,000 for a business that's established more than 2 years, and then if it's under 2 years, I think it's up to 25,000, but we can make special provisions. And it's just like the length of, we go up to 5 years, like the first 2 years is like 1%, years 3 and 4 is 2%, and year 5 is a 3%. And then we'll take the interest that we go from that, and I think we're gonna start putting together a facade improvement program for businesses around the city. So if there's a business that might need new windows, maybe we do like a 50-50 grant and help defer some of the costs on those windows. So that's what we're working with towards this revolving loan fund. So that's really close to happening. And we should be seeing something in front of council during the month of July. And then after that, we're gonna jump into economic development plan, putting that together, and we've been working also with Paul Foster, who's a group out of Portland. They do a lot of work with Brett Baba actually grew up in the Yakima Valley. He did the whole design for Pipes Market Comanche. He's done a bunch of really good design work in the Portland, Seattle, Yakima, Central Washington area. But so they're helping us put together basically a list of recommendations. I'm going off the Roger Brooks report that was generated like in 2019 or something like that. So we put together a list of, I'm not gonna call it a theme, but a list of standards that we might be able to start implementing in certain parts of like the downtown or new business areas, new development areas that have like a certain feel and theme and texture to them as you go there. So that's on the future a little bit, not too far, but a little bit.
Would you mind just sharing with us who's on that committee?
Yeah, so on the committee, I think there's a current opening right now.
That's what I heard on Monday.
Yeah, so there's a current opening right now, but Brittany Bima, she owns the
Wellness.
Complete Wellness, yeah,
Complete Wellness,
they just
yeah.
opened. Perla Zepeda, who's the farmers insurance
agent.
Leticia Sandoval, Select Insurance. Lori Gardner, French Vanilla Market.
And she's had a couple other businesses similar to that prior to that, so yeah, it's a big one.
And then Dr. Maria Chacon, who is a therapist right off of, she's right next to a little park off of 6th or 7th in there.
Okay.
Right at basically kitty corner-ish, blockish corner-ish to French Vanilla. So right over there, so.
Is it city funds being used to lend the money?
So the revolving loan fund is that was part of the ARPA dollars. Yes, that's gonna start this revolving loan fund. So the goal is to then replenish those funds and and
So
then,
is there a criteria in place for the lending? They have to apply and meet certain financial criteria.
and that's what we're going, so we've spent the last 2 or 3 meetings putting all that information together. And so our next meeting, which would be on, well, it's gonna be on July 11th. I have that entire packet, we're gonna go through the entire packet, from start to finish, to make sure that all the bugs are kind of worked out of it, and that hopefully will go to council at the end of July, so that's my hope with it. But yeah, there's criteria, there's criteria on bankruptcy history, so we get into that a little bit, but it's in there.
Can I suggest, you said you have an opening, that you try to fill that opening with somebody either from ag or dairy?
Yeah, that's it.
You can look into that, we've got a couple of dairy industries in Sunnyside, so. Others.
Is there anyone on the school board? Or have you reached out to anybody?
No, there's nobody on the school board that's on there.
I think it might be good if somebody from other churches. Just, well, you know,
Because you reach a lot of people. with
you reach a lot of people
that's
and
a-
you get a feel for what's going on.
the community.
Yeah, so that's one of my strategies when it comes to doing any sort of actual like open house events is I'll send teachers, I'll email like the teaching list directly, or I'll email churches, send your kids home with these flyers and come to our open house on this day, so it was definitely a COVID strategy for surveys is to email teachers directly, because it was very, very hard to get any sort of community participation at that point in time. So there's some really good little strategies that work directly with different parishes or work directly with the teachers in classrooms. That's a really good way to garner input.
I'm excited, I think it's good news.
Yeah, yes.
No, council felt this was an important move several years ago, and so when we finally were able to populate the committee, I was pretty excited by those who were eager to participate. Yeah, that was kind of at the beginning of me being the mayor, and I had, watched other mayors for some time struggling to fill vacancies, and that one filled up rather quickly, and I thought, wow, it must be all me. No, I didn't. So yeah, I think this is something very necessary, and it could really bring a lot of benefits to the city, so I'm pleased with that. Okay, any more questions or comments for Trevor?
Can an outside person make a comment? Okay,
You talk to him after the meeting.
I'll send you an email. I just had an idea, just to,
Okay, sure.
thank you, Trevor.
All right, so we'll move on to the next item. And I think this one is you, Jackie, right? Review the draft 24 requests for proposals.
Yes, so the copy machine that I used did not have a stapling option, so. Here's, if you wanna pass them down from the committees. Go this way. Here's 4 different proposal packets. Okay, all right, so that's that one. And then you. Okay,
Sorry.
I did farm implement parade. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go get a stapler. All right, I know, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
Did we email this to Randy? So we'll keep that coming somewhere.
Can we get these back before the meeting? It would be helpful. We could review it before the meeting.
I think today these are just being presented to us, correct? Or
Yeah.
So we're not gonna labor through them.
Just like the master tourism plan, it was not really.
Thank you.
But at the last.
Yes, it's a different thing, yes.
Because they're considered handouts.
So we're not expecting intelligent answers from you today.
Oh, that's sorry. Sorry, thank you.
You're assuming they're never done. Would you want to?
One of the general ones. All right, everybody have 3 packets in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, here's the info. I'll give you the Tom, Peggy,
Okay.
and then Mom. Elizabeth, Mayor, Trevor, Amy, and Jamie. Wait, what goes to Elizabeth? Okay.
It's all right.
Okay. There's your RFPs. And again, it's just a draft. You guys wanna go over and make any suggested changes, I think. I was talking to Jamie and then maybe the group. We could have one proposal, one application with 4. With an exhibit that lists, this is what Cinco de Mayo would be, this is what Sunshine Days, Lighted Farm Implement Parade. So we don't have 4 different applications. I think we went from 1 to 4. And then I don't know, it's a lot to do, 4 different ones. The option would be to add the exhibit with the specifics on each other event, the signature events.
Drop that option.
Cause I know the Cinco one is more in depth, like it's requested more than like a regular. But I know we were trying in last meeting,
Yes.
For regular-
Years.
for regular proposals to have it like Cinco. Just because it gives us more detail, so we know that the people that are coming in trying to ask for funds have done events before, or they show us proof, or they show us pictures of previous. I know like I don't know what it's called, but the one that they do for cancer. They come in every year, but we don't see pictures, or we hear that the event happened, but we don't see houses.
And asking for some receipts and things like that to see how the dollars are being spent.
I think reporting is helpful for council as well. Even if we don't see all the receipts at council, we can get an overview of that so that we can look at it. It is helpful, but we do have to ask us, so how did we do? Did we Did we achieve the goal of getting X number of people in hotels? Did we get so many people participating? How did the venue, we wanna know this stuff, because people will ask us. So some sort of reporting is
Well, reporting is required by the state.
to the committee, yes, but council doesn't necessarily want to dig into the depths of it, but we do want to see how it is. But you're right.
Martin's so bad, he's come up and I'll never check the live here.
And Maddie has the copies ready. She worked on that this morning, copies of all the receipts. You want them now or after the meeting? I think
For.
after, that way we have copies of all the receipts for the reimbursements for 2020, 2021, and 2022.
I think after, because we're not discussing
We don't
the
have
other
to talk about
view.
it in this meeting, so it's gonna be a little
Yeah.
bit of a distraction for the time. So we haven't actually received any RFPs yet, right?
No, so if you look at the timeline on any of them, the timeline is the same for all. That is like on Cinco de Mayo packets, page 5. It's expected to publish on the 5th, and all the proposals are due July 26th. If you guys want to go through this and make changes, we can push these dates back.
Maybe just skim through it real quick and see if anything stands out right off the top.
And then the same applications every year, nothing's been changed for them.
Are each of these applications roughly the same?
No,
Oh.
Cinco's more like that,
Or in depth?
yeah, you need recommendation. It asks for, I think it asks for pictures, it asks for more things than a. Like sunshine day, and I'm not sure for the apartment limit, right? But in there for a regular proposal, they don't ask for very much.
Okay.
It's the
I'm
same
fine.
pretty much for the parade and for Cinco.
Oh, they're the same, okay.
Yeah,
And it might be because it feels like the city's got more exposure for Cinco and Parade, and those are the two most greatly attended events that we have in the year, and we want to make sure that they come off properly.
That's what we're saying, like for regular proposal, we'd like to see. If when they apply, like some of the things that are asked in here.
So one of the things that I did notice that for Cinco and the lighted farm implement parade, we don't require what the general proposal requires of the events income statement. Is that something you guys want to add for Cinco and lighted farm implement parade?
I thought it was.
Absolutely.
yeah, I thought it was in there and that's what I've been looking for and I can't see it either because I thought it said where if we previously funded it, we wanted to see the receipts.
That's
Yeah.
only for the general one. You guys, I've looked in the past, cause I was like, did I happen to take it off? But it was even, you know, when Deb was part of this LTAC. It was not part of it. So do you guys wanna add that part?
Sounds
Yes.
like the consensus is yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I will make sure to add that one.
This is a template right here. And these are actual completed proposals.
And these are RFPs as well. They're just different in scope because they're not general. They're
And that's what
specific.
me and Jackie were kind of talking about, is keeping that one general one, but then doing all of this separate event stipulations as sort of like a separate attachment. You know, for the RFP, so the application is always consistent.
Hmm.
But it may not work.
So trying to have the same application all the way across, but each event's gonna have its event specific
Right, like,
addition.
yeah, like an addition that you would need to complete as well for those particular things. If it would be
Consistency
easier to
across the board,
manage,
yeah,
right,
consistency across the board is gonna be easier for people to continue to fill out, plus it's gonna be easier for staff and us to go through.
right.
So then we can see quicker if they haven't filled it out completely. Because that has been a problem on some of these applications over the years. Okay, further thoughts? I know we're asking for a lot really fast.
Was it taken off? Cause I know in previous it said for like nonprofit, they would have to provide like minute meetings. Nothing has been removed from these since Deb was here.
I don't remember the minutes being needed. It was, we had to provide our board, like a name of our current board of directors. And I think our budget,
Oh, it was the public meetings.
So one thing that you guys were doing really well at is making sure all the required information was in place. And I know Jackie and I have had conversations over some of the things that weren't filled out properly, and you were not shy about rejecting proposals if they weren't filled out properly. And that's good. You know, as a guide for council to make decisions and make the approval of recommendations. We kind of count on you guys going through them and saying, okay, this one, they didn't even bother to fill out half the stuff, right? So it's out the door immediately.
And ask, because we want it that. I mean, we really want to consider everything, but it doesn't serve anybody well if we're doing it, you know, the job.
Right,
halfway.
and so that is really helpful. Council knows what we're looking at has been filled out properly. You guys have vetted them. And that's an important part of the process. And so that we can, you know, when whoever the LTAC rep from council presents that, we all can have that confidence that it's properly vetted and everything's properly filled out. And yeah, and you guys with Jackie's guidance have been doing a great job of that. So I appreciate that. But that's why when you guys look at the form and you have to go through every one of these proposals, and you have to make recommendations. You're the ones that are going to look at it and say, all right, this is wonky. Especially those of you who have had to fill it out because you're putting on a pen. You've got the experience, you've been through that, you've gone through it multiple times. And there may be stuff in there that hasn't made sense over the years or should be consistent all the way through, such as what we've just done. So yeah, this is where you jump in and say you're doing it wrong.
And are the dates still good on the timeline that we drafted last meeting?
That's what I was looking at it. See what I was agreeing to here
It's right there, you have it.
Right there.
is. Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you.
No.
So, okay. So the responses are due on the 26th, so we have a week to look at them before we have a meeting. And we go through our
Process,
arduous process, yeah.
and we're kind of anticipating 2 meetings needed.
We left that whole a month of August so that if you schedule another meeting, you can before council reviews it on the 28th.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is doable, I just want to make sure I can be around.
Just
That's my knowledge.
hopefully we can get through in 1 meeting, but. June 2nd.
I plan to be gone for a period of time here, obviously.
You're not a part of this part, you're not next level.
Well,
When
Actually,
you are.
you are.
I am.
That's right, I forgot.
And then the event descriptions on any of them, are we okay? Do we want to add? I know Sunshine Days was typically more than one day before. Do we want to require that it be add a carnival, add something else, car show? What do you guys? That's on page 2 of the Sunshine Days one. do you wanna set a date or just leave it so that the coordinator, whoever it is, has the flexibility to work with the high school?
That's what it's sort of done in the last few years where it's coordinated with high school homecoming, correct?
Either that or I know the Sunfair in Yakima, they fluctuate their date. So sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. So, in previous years I contacted and I asked what your dates are. And then I, talked with the Sunnyside to see, they booked the auditorium ahead of time, for their pageant, so I would try to make sure everything is in line. But I mean, if anybody else were to get it, I don't know if, you know, you would wanna put a specific date, or you can let them know, like, these are the, you know, you would have to talk to, or try to figure out what dates, so we're
Well,
not
we-
competing with.
Right, what we've run into in the past is we had a date set up because Sunfair was pretty consistent, well, then all of a sudden they started changing things up, and we know from experience and thinking things through. That if the state fair is going on in Yakima, we are not going to get anybody at Sunshine Days, and so there's no point putting all the time and effort in, so we do not want to overlap that. I think we need to keep it flexible. In order to make sure that doesn't happen.
And then 3 days, 1 day, 2 days, what are you expecting out of this event?
Well, just looking at the handout here, is it you're asking them to provide you with 3 dates for the event or 3 days?
Days.
I put 3
It
days,
was 3 days.
I put 3 days because I was drafting them. But I meant to take it off because I wasn't sure what you guys wanted to do, since you guys said you wanted more out of these events.
We do, but we have to start working with them first, and develop that vision and, I think at least 1 year before we obligate them to a specific amount of days. First, you have to work with the community and
Can we
expand
change
it.
the language to say up to 3 days?
Yeah, that would be so much better.
We've had this conversation about the multiple days a few years. I don't know.
I think that if you put in there the dates desired, what you're doing is you're trying to get people to create a reason for people to spend the night a year.
Which is the goal of the community.
And this year it is gonna be 3 days.
Okay,
Do I remove the parade is on Saturday or is that?
Normally we leave the parade Saturday only because it works with Miss Sunnyside, the candidates drive through the parade and it's the current court's last. I guess goodbye event, and they kind of show off their float to the city, and then it's the pageant, that's what it's been in years, so. I've tried doing different times and it didn't work, the girls were really rushed, so. We went back to 10, but I mean,
Are you
it's-
inviting other communities to come and bring their folks to.
yeah, so that's the Miss Sunnyside, once the applications are ready, we give them the application and the girls, they have like grades coming up. So they hand out those applications to the visiting royalties that are at the events. So I know they didn't have very many parades, but this July, there's like 4th of July parades, I know they're going to a couple of them. What to tell.
No, I understand the reciprocal nature of the. In my parade, out in your parade, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And especially when they have like luncheon, and that's why we started doing the free food, so.
That's a really good
Yeah.
idea. That's good. I know the idea.
Yeah, so
Yes.
before and previous, the Miss Sunnyside did a luncheon for royalty only. Then I got with Walmart and we started doing it for everybody that's in the parade. And that seems to work and it got people talking, like, we're gonna go to Sunnyside because they gave us food and we enjoyed it and we're gonna go. So that's, I mean, who doesn't want to be free food?
incentive.
Yeah, so-
The only ones doing
Yes,
it.
and I've done
One of those.
gift bags too, and a lot of people like that. And I think that it's working so that people, and it's a growing event. I'm hoping maybe with the plans we have,
this year it's gonna make it.
Question, clarification question to Becky. There's nothing in the SMC that drives how long things need to be, right?
Not right now.
This question.
That might be something, cause I know in the Cinco one, it does give you times, and I know, when I had talked to Elizabeth, I'd asked if on Saturday if we needed to stop it at a certain time, so that way people can go to the pageant, or is it okay that we kind of let it go a little bit longer so that people are downtown more? So that is something to that. I don't know, if you- but I know with an ordinance, where you can't have music, right, certain pastime,
At
or,
a certain point.
yeah,
I'll come on you then. We hear it so loudly in the Arctic Park.
But my phone starts ringing, my text starts burning a hole in my.
well,
pocket.
this weekend I could hear, and I live on the hill, I could hear from the Alpha. Yeah, but,
Oh, yeah, but it stops at 10, so.
I mean, you could hear like, I think because of the wind kind of the echo, but I mean, it wasn't.
We're in a little dip down, and for some reason, we can hear one.
There are certain parts of town where the sound carries
Oh,
from downtown really strong, and other parts of town, and you can just be a block away on the hill. And you get a whole different set of sounds. I'll get a call from somebody who's complaining about this, that, and the other thing, and I sit on the deck 2 blocks away and I don't hear any of what they're saying.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of weird little curve in the hill in a couple of different spots that really changes how noise carries.
Okay, so then I'll just leave the dates as is and publish it next week.
Just change the, what exactly, how did you write it, where the.
Multiple dates,
Multiple
right?
days, yeah.
It is, yeah.
That.
Anything else we need to know about these RFPs?
Take a look at even very detailed. So. It's a react.
Yeah.
Okay, so these will go out here shortly,
Next Wednesday.
and an RFP is always a work in progress as well, so that it can be modified the next round if we see mistakes, so be ever vigilant. You're always trying to do a better job than we did the last time, trying to just be consistent, do the same thing every time.
Committee members have volunteered if an applicant has questions to help them through the process, especially as staff is limited.
That is helpful. And I appreciate your willingness to take that time. Okay, so that is the active agenda. Items from committee members. What have you got for us?
I don't have anything.
Hearing a huge rush of people rushing to speak, so.
My item. Yes.
All right. Lindsay, you got
I'm
something?
curious why Monica is there.
Oh,
Is there a time when? Cause I got an email and I forwarded it and I'm not sure if the answers to those questions came or not. So I guess that's the only item I have. I was curious about that.
yeah,
Okay, when, it would be a question of suspending the rules. And Ms. Olo, what's your take on that?
I don't have anything to bring up, I'm just.
Yeah, I think we can talk afterwards.
Okay,
Yeah, that would probably be best.
sounds good. Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay.
I said,
Yeah, there's not an item agenda for public comments.
understood.
I'm curious, so are you gonna be attending meetings on a regular basis from now on? And if so, why?
Well, the LTAC requires a staff liaison. Jackie has historically
In that
held
person?
that role, but Jackie's nature of her job doesn't necessarily align, and she's very busy, so we've been looking for another angle for somebody to be the staff liaison. The original plan was for that to be taken over by the special project coordinator. If and when that position ever does take effect, it would be that, but for the time being, the liaison will be coming from the finance department.
So Jackie, you're gonna be stepping out.
Yes, for now, I'll just kind of hang out with you guys and help with the transition. There's also been questions about the budget and stuff that I just don't really, I'm not a numbers person, and so I know you guys have brought up questions like, well, these numbers don't add up, and to the people that are submitting the proposals, and I'm not a numbers person, so it is better that a finance person, and in other cities, finance department does handle LTAC. So it's just better for me to give it to finance or the other position if it gets funded. Approved.
So one of the comments earlier had to do with staff availability. And Jackie is overworked at best, even with an assistant that has just come on board. She has got more than enough to keep her occupied. Public records requests can just kind of put her over the top as far as things that she's got to take care of. And so we'd like to free her up to be able to do that. We don't really want to experience burnout in any of our staff. And which is why we're trying to hire an events coordinator. This will be the contact person for people who are applying to run an event. It's not the city, again, reiterate, there's a rumor out there that the city wants to take over events. We don't have time. No, we do not want to run events. So this would be a person to help facilitate the process for those who want to run the event. And so we still have things to work on that. The proposal was tabled the other night. There's things we're going to work on and try to clarify some things, make sure everything is more than clear. And before we bring it up for council again, so that is something that we're trying to move towards.
A perfect example is like just a little bit ago, just before this meeting, I was at the community center trying to plan the tables and stuff, and this person would do that. Why don't tomorrow I'm gonna be running around getting pizza, and I could be working on a records request or working on an agenda. I'm just.
We're doing, I don't know if everyone at the table knows, we're doing a community forum tomorrow night. And so as that community forum, we had, I mean, literally IT had to go buy 2 TVs yesterday because someone stole the TVs at the community center. I ordered stands for the TVs so that they can be portable. Those were delivered today. Then Jackie, like I said, she's in charge of making sure Public Works knows how many tables to put up for our citizens, how many tablecloths, those have to be figured out. And then food and beverages, getting the ice, all of that. And we all try to help. Like, I know I'll be going to the community center early so I can help her with setup. But it would be so much nicer if we had an event person, when even we have our own event, that I'm not having to do this stuff and Jackie's not having to do this stuff, because really. And we all help, so don't think it's not, you know, but to have somebody that is in charge of that would be so helpful for us. Cause there are tons of things that we do that, you know, anything we do with city stuff, Jackie and I end up, and then I usually have to recruit a couple other people too.
Unfortunately, or not all of us feel the same way about that position, so. I know I certainly don't, and I know Martin's been a no.
So, but one of the things too is that we want to do it as mayor anyway. I want to protect staff from burnout. So we've got a group of people working for the city here who I am very impressed with and do a tremendous amount of work. And it would really be easy to over rely on people and we burn out and then we start losing people. And I don't want that to happen. We've had a really good last couple of years where we finally reached a point where it took my nearly 10 years on council at that point to say, okay, we have now achieved this very significant goal and we can move ahead and we're doing that.
Finally, our budget is on track.
Yes.
In a world that has gone crazy, if you step out, and I think those are the concerns to not. And definitely don't want to overburden the employees, but we also don't need to dive in the minutia of fixing something that wasn't broken. And so if anything was going on wrong with the events, we can deal with the people with the events themselves and the volunteers. It's just a system that's worked so well for countless years, and so don't wanna see these events taken over by the city.
City is not.
That's not our,
That's
that is
not
not
goal.
the goal
I don't.
and
want-
hasn't ever been the goal.
No. Like I said, just a few minutes ago, the city does not want to run events. The city just, it is not our role. People are entitled to their opinions,
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. Not gonna change mine.
so, all right. Any other items from committee members? Staff? Items?
I just, there were questions about, continued questions about the Cinco de Mayo events. So I went through and collected the financial data. It's not audited yet, but this is just a snapshot of sort of revenue, incoming revenue, outgoing expenditures, through the reporting system. So, the top left shows the revenues, which totaled in cash amount, including the LTAC, $30,000 as $70,000, 586. The expenditures, which includes all the costs for entertainment, setup, tear down, sanitation, all the things, came in, and overtime, staff overtime, which we had to use a lot more than I think would be typical, came to 88,000. So again, the event in itself for this year operated at a loss of 17,000. So that's basically the general fund of the city puts that bill. But the main reason for this is the event was canceled in 2022 due to an incident which we're all aware of. When that event was canceled, the city agreed to honor the vendor booth spaces that had been paid for by people in the year 2022. So this box in the top right corner basically shows, this is the number of vendor spaces we had, 137 total. Some of them are worth $300, some of them are worth $600 because those end cap ones where people get more exposure, they cost a little bit more. So the total revenue amount that the city could have brought in for those spaces is $47,100. But the city basically only collected $9,975 because we comped the rest of those $37,000 in vendor spaces, because that money wasn't recovered. So in essence, if we consider that comped amount as the city's in-kind donation, sort of, the event did come out ahead by 19,000, but again, for this year, it has a negative cash flow. And that and the additional overtime costs of having staff at the last minute sort of have to put in extra hours to try and get the thing to happen, are the reasons I think that the cost and the expenses.
So next year you won't be comping any of these vendor sites, and so we could have
Correct.
full income.
Amy, did we need to comp that many? I don't know how it ended up last year. It wasn't around.
In my
last year.
contract that they signed, it said no refunds.
So we gave $37,000 away and there were contracts saying no refunds.
Every vendor signed a contract.
Thank you.
Next year, six will be open all the way through, so there'll be a little different street feel, a little different layout to the way things flow, so there might be opportunity to kind of expand, redesign and do some things.
There was also, some of the vendors reported that there were different prices for different things, so I'm not, this is the value based on what the city would have charged this year. So I can't say for sure that the amount that was charged in 2022 equals this 37,000, that's not what I'm saying. I have no idea. Some vendors reported that they were charged significantly more than what we have listed. Some reported that they were charged less. We know that there's street front businesses that actually have their storefront there that have been paying to put stuff out on their sidewalk in front of their store as well, which we did not do. So it's hard to say that this total amount here is truthfully what the previous year would have taken in, but that's just the value that the city would have taken in just for this year, for 2023.
I know in previous years, businesses would charge, I guess, let's say you wanted to go set up in front of them. And when Jamie was here, he said that there was some kind of ordinance saying that you could not, and I'm not sure, I just went off of what he said. You can only sell what's in your business. So Corona Furniture, they sell furniture, they cannot set out and sell fruit for that weekend. And then you must be under your awning.
And because then in fact, they are actually an outside vendor
Yeah.
and need to pay the
So
fee.
that was things that we would watch out for, and I know it's tough.
Well, thank you,
because-
because that was brought up recently in a meeting I attended
And so I
that
kind of
makes it
just
clear
went with those,
whether
and I
they're
know
wrong.
he would hand out to the businesses no fryers on the sidewalk, just because we had gotten the new pole belts, the new sidewalks, so we didn't want stains and all that stuff. And then it was just kind of like a safety thing, because people use the sidewalks to walk, and hot grease flow,
Yeah.
and especially when they're making, you know, like enchiladas. It sparkles out. So those are things, and I know some of the businesses would charge people and say, hey, I'll let you clean my storefront, give me this much money. But that's like everyone's gonna say there.
actually that's a great explanation, because it's very different than what I heard. That makes perfect sense. If
And that's
you're a
what I was
furniture
kind of
business,
with,
for
but
like
I mean, I
furniture.
don't know if what I never, I guess, looked into it more, I just took his word that that's what he said, so,
It's in there.
Yeah.
It's on there.
he said it, I just believe. What he said.
And this year, I think
Yeah.
everybody stuck with that too. I didn't see any strange figure of furniture store you're selling enchiladas or anything like that, so. I think
And then
people
one
follow
year
that.
we had where they had a business and they were like frying and barbecuing inside their business. So yeah, it was like, we had to shut it down. And a lot of times we get, well, you're not the city, so you can't tell me what to do.
Right,
So that's when he would come down, or somebody from the city would come down and say, hey, this is not allowed, you don't do it Monday through Friday, you can't do it
here,
here.
right now. That makes perfect sense. That maybe something at tomorrow's event, if people ask about, well, you're not, because I know I just recently heard this, that you're not allowing the downtown businesses to sell their wares. You are in fact allowing the downtown businesses to sell their wares. They're just not allowed to make a new business up for the weekend.
And then it's, I don't know if you do, but
Communication always helps.
they have to be under their awning.
So that's not necessarily true, that might be a Jamie nuance, but you have to leave at least 42 inches of space for wheelchair, so. there's-
So I think maybe that's why he said under your awning, so that way there's
That's-
space,
that
but we
makes
just kind of stuck with that.
Can I ask something? Have we ever audited any of these events?
I only started at the end of 2021, so not since I've been here. I'm not sure about previously.
That's something that I think all of us,
We did a
Agreed.
number of years ago. Those weren't pretty.
yeah, we need to do that. We need to do that. We don't need another chamber event, or we need to do that. And whether you want us to do it, or because you're talking about staff time, and at least have a rough guess, and if numbers don't look right, then pass it on to finance for a detailed audit, but we need to make sure that.
I'm not opposed to that. Council members have asked in the past for a little more detailed financial reports than they've been able to receive. And that has been a frustration for some council members in the past. I think that is not out of bounds for us to ask. I think, Elizabeth, we can do that, if not.
In your RFP, you can actually put in there that it's required they turn in detailed financial reports at the end of their event. That is, you can require that. So in other words, we put together a template like this. And you say to the event organizer that we need to have this filled out afterwards, showing your profit and loss.
I talked to Connie from Sort for the Cause and I let them know that, LTAC would like to have you come back and give a report. We never did that in the previous years because it was brought to council, they wanted A&A to report, and so the city manager said, if you're gonna bring her, make sure you bring everybody. So we never did it, but I talked to Sort for the Cause and they said, so you want me to give you a report of all of our revenue for the event for the $2,000 you gave us. And I said, I believe that's the direction they wanna go. And so as long as we provide like the template, that would be perfect for them to fill out and bring back. That way we put the expectation out there. This is what we want when you're done with your event.
I'll give you a perfect example. In some cases, we're giving money to an event that's giving out in prizes and donations. You know, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times that amount, well then, had we known that, we wouldn't have made the same recommendation to council. Not to mention, just from a city perspective, having come from a city and having come from being audited, we should be auditing, obviously, any financial transactions that go on.
Right, and any LTAC funds awarded are not anywhere close to the entire amount of funds that are needed to put on an event.
Correct.
Even if we give $30,000, it's nothing near what, it serves as promotions, advertising. Maybe some purchase of some basic supplies, but it's not going to cover the cost of putting on the event for any of it.
No.
So that is less of an issue, but an audit to be able to see that, okay, they spent that money cleanly, here's the records, they know where it came from, they know where it went. And they should be able to do that for their own good anyway. Be able to look at those sheets, so it's not something that would be too difficult for them to provide to the city. It's not that we're gonna tell them recommend how they spend their money, but we need to know that they're keeping track.
And I think, as I said in the last meeting, I do intend to audit the programs, or have somebody from my department to audit the programs going forward, so that should change. And then we can present our audits to LTAC. I think that would be more appropriate than having LTAC directly audit, but
I do
that's.
too. I think just really honestly, having a form like this for them to fill out would be really helpful for you. Especially when you're funding the following year, because if you saw on here that we had in revenues, that we had like let's say we had sponsors. And we were bringing in, even if we added $10,000 in sponsors here, would that then say to you, well, then we don't, if you can get 10,000 sponsors, then we need to reduce your ask by 10,000.
You don't need all the money you're asking.
Right. And I think if you did see this in black and white for some of these events, you'd be very surprised.
I don't think we would be, I think we expected it.
Through the years, we've had people come and request large dollar amounts from us and they have never disclosed.
Right.
Even though we've asked, and it's been my sense that this event's made you $150,000 and you're not telling us that, you're still under 25 right now.
Right.
So.
And I do think though, if we word it right, we can put in there that if you do not turn in your completed financial report, you will be disqualified from future LTAC money.
Yeah.
And then that way it puts some, yeah,
And that
put some
language,
teeth in
and
it.
that language should be added to the RFP.
Yeah,
We can probably get that accomplished before you put it out.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll work with you, if that's the direction, maybe once, I'll work with Jamie to add that.
I know that
language.
this had, I think it's a good idea. I know that it's came up in previous and. I'm not sure, and I know when Deb was here, and I don't know, maybe we can look into it. They said that we can only ask for what the money we're giving.
I think we can go beyond.
So
I did
I just
look
wanna
into
make sure, like, we're not getting into the. Cause I know in previous years we have asked, but don't quite remember, but I know that back then she said something like, we're only able to see what they spend. So if they said the 2,000, we're only to see that, but I
I think we
understand.
can look into that and make sure, but
I just wanna
I
make sure
talked
and
to
not.
Tony from Prosser just before this meeting, because I was talking to staff about it, she said she requires for your whole event, because I brought up the sort for the cause, I think their event is probably more than 150,000, so she said for $2,000, you're gonna have me bring the whole financial report, so I checked with her, she says, yes, for everything, for the whole event, your revenues, your expenditures, and if you don't wanna present that, then you don't get money.
And I think to go with what you said, I think you're right in like the requiring receipts portion. I don't think we can require the backup documentation to go with the financial reports for money that we didn't provide. But at least the statement of the full funding so that it can be verified is reasonable.
And Tony said, this is the city's money,
It is.
community's money, you can put whatever requirement you want on your proposal. On a report value, and if that's a problem, then you don't get the $2,000 or $3,000.
All right. Good conversation, I like the direction you headed.
I'd like to make a comment on the Cinco de Mayo. And yeah, the city, we have lost some money here, but I think this we did really killed it by keeping continuity in that event. After not having it in 2022, and it is what I would call a core event for Sunnyside. So I think we were involved in it, yes. I think we did the most financially nicely you wanted it to, but thank you very much.
And typically, just so everyone at the table knows, the city's role in providing staff for all these events, we never charge for overtime.
Right.
We do not charge anyone for our staff overtime. We don't charge for the streets. We don't charge for, well, we used to charge Cinco for police, I think, because you contracted with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've paid every year except last year because, Chief Escaleta and that you guys discussed.
Right.
That's the only year, but every other year and the years that I've been working at the chamber, we've paid for police
Right,
officers.
but we didn't pay for streets or public works
I
or
don't know.
water department or anything. That's
I
the
think
part.
what's paid for is the things that happen at the event, but none of the precursor, none of the setup, so the planning. Like the police have, there's planning that goes into it, they don't charge for that, but they do charge for the staff time.
Yeah,
at the event,
yeah, I
right?
paid for the 3 days.
Yeah.
And then, depending if I need them for overnight, I pay for the overnight stay and because of the short staffing, we've been having to hire sheriffs. So I also pay for the sheriff officers.
So that is one expense that is kind of a hidden city expense in some ways. We tracked it though this year in on-time sheets and charged it as part of the event, so we would know the true cost. So that was something that is different.
But
in years past, we had.
in addition, though, there's the actual, so this is just the overtime portion, because there are plenty of hours spent during the regular business day where they are working on these events as well. So that's not captured. The only thing we really could capture, unless we actually did a time study and we made people clock in and out based on their tasks, there wouldn't really be a way to monitor that, so we chose to just monitor the overtime.
Plain and simply, if the city doesn't cooperate with these events and offer that, I don't even like that the police charge. I think that's shocking. If the city doesn't cooperate, these events will not happen. Because there isn't enough money coming into the fund to even fund one of them, if that was the case, where we had to pay for streets and
Right.
fire and police, none of the events would happen.
I know, when we know that, and we know we're that partner. Does that make sense? We know that that's our role.
It's important to the city that these events happen, and if new events are proposed and they're approved, it's important for us that those happen as well, and we want as an entity to cooperate with that, and I think council is pretty enthusiastic about that. What we like to see is people outside enjoying what the community has to offer and enjoying each other's company. And there's many different ways to do that, and because we've had a certain number that have been successful over the years, doesn't mean that's the only ones that we can have. So I know I've heard that there's people looking at new ideas to come in, and I'm excited about that.
I mean, we have a wonderful, rich community here with.
Oh, and ideas have been proposed for those types of things,
Oh, yeah.
and so. It's not only staff's idea or desire, but council's idea, desire that we continue doing more of this, so.
Yeah.
And as we get more LTAC funds because of these events, then you guys are gonna have more tasks, with more funds to work with, but able to make those awards, so. Okay, so.
I just wanna apologize, I wasn't attempting to imply that LTAC would be responsible for any of those costs, if that's what you understood.
Clarify that
No.
27,000 is on there because we tracked it this year.
Just this year,
Yeah, we've
based
never
on
tracked
the
it before.
last minute, and we included it as a cost category. Because we had to do extra. So,
And the city's trying to tighten up its reporting, so we know more about what we're doing.
Yeah.
There's one item. entertainment that I would like to add. And that is, I think that we should put a TPA in place here. As a motionary,
Oh, right, right. That'd be awesome.
it's an additional. I should probably know there, $70,000. So this community would have to advertising.
The one thing that we're kind of missing too, Tom, is we don't have the information on how many people are staying because of events at the hotels, and that's been. It's hard for your staff to be able to do that, but would we be able to get them?
Legally, and we've offered it before here in the meetings. We know exactly how many heads go into beds per event.
I can tell you that our number would be better than a wet finger in the wind. Because we have a pretty good idea, but not everybody catalogs people as they come across the front desk, which is.
That random traveler.
Yeah, no, it's a staff issue, it's not the traveler.
No, they have to ask.
Yeah, you have to ask. If
Exactly.
we created a QR code and an online thing, do you think your staff would do something like that, where just every day during an event, they?
You know, to be honest with you, created a QR code, you might be better off asking the people who are attending.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And if they give you the same signature 3 days in a row, then you know it's the same person. But that way you would get more accurate numbers.
That is a great idea. So you wouldn't mind if I created something pleasant that basically said, are you here for a special event?
Yeah.
Why are you here? What are you staying in? What are you staying for something?
Put a carrot on it and say.
And
That's why you're here.
inside they asked us, we went and they asked, are you here for the soccer tournament? And we said yes, and then they wrote something, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of like
Probably.
what they need for LTAC.
That's a great idea, Tom. We'll do that. We'll get together a flyer. In fact, I can see Jackie's gonna do it. She's writing it down.
Yeah, and then when we go for wrestling, are you here for the wrestling tournament? Yeah.
We have to everyone while they're there, so we can't help.
But again, it's a staffing issue, you've got your front desk people who've got to ask that question, but somehow or other, we need to capture some of that.
Could we do a tent on your tables in the
You can do something in the lobby.
breakfast, or just in the lobby?
Yeah, we have a digital display board,
Okay,
so you can do something there, but like I said, put a carrot on it, so there's a reason for people. to do it.
exactly.
If you respond, you go into some kind of a pool where there's a drawing, and maybe you have 50% off your next stay here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, just give people a reason.
Shoot, I do it for a free cup of coffee, but that's, I think you're ready better.
I think more than willing to donate a day of free, you know, you would too. Yeah,
and we do it like a drawing once a month or something, or once every.
Well, after each event, we have.
signature event,
Okay, that's a good idea.
and then if we're getting ahead in a bed, and odds are, we could make that really work for us. You get one free night if you stay 2 nights. We could make that really work for us, so.
Okay.
Especially if it's.
That's slow.
And then
So,
I have a question, sorry, go ahead.
so one free night if you stay 2 nights is agreeable.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'll contact the other hotels and see if they're agreeable.
Well, I wouldn't make that offer global, it's the winner of the.
Right, the winner,
Yeah.
yeah, the winner gets it,
A person who gets drawn.
right.
I have a question, so it says entertainment, the 38,800, that's just on, for the weekend, what was spent? Or that's including the every entertainment?
And it includes. It includes. The money that was paid to Armando Reyes to coordinate. The bands, the DJ, the soundstage, I believe. I have a list, right? Huh?
I know.
Yes, she did. She usually has 1 hour.
Anyway, so that includes $35,000 that was paid to Armando Reyes to book 6 bands, handle the DJ at the street dance. Supplies and advertising, soundstage, sound equipment, miscellaneous other supplies, and then it also includes an amount paid to somebody else for the band in the parade. I don't know about this, and then off the top, release.
Yeah, that was for the band on the back of the truck,
Yeah,
or, you know, being pulled by the semi.
right.
That goes to the child.
Yeah, the truck.
So that's what that total is.
Did they get a good deal?
Coming from a music background. You should have international bands with that.
I think it would last a minute to.
He spent 17,000 was the portion that he spent on
Bands.
bands.
Cause I've had some of those and I paid them.
So the 38,800 is not for just the bands.
Right,
It's just the bands was 17,000 for the 6 bands.
correct.
It's still.
Okay, we're ready to move on?
I do have, so council's direction is to add that required revenue and expenditure report, correct? Okay, so I'm gonna work with staff so she can help me.
Okay.
Write that.
Perfect.
So are we gonna include this in the art, like something like this in the RP so that way?
Yeah.
I think
They
we
have
have a
it?
form
Yeah,
of some sort like that,
So
yeah.
that way Jackie's not,
Yeah,
or,
I'll put it in
or
the-
somebody's having to mail it. And it's
You could
already in there
probably-
and say like, after your event, you have like a month or to turn in.
We
this
could
to
probably even do it through either a fillable PDF or
like email.
Express, where you could just go fill it in online.
Yeah.
And it would send it to us. We'll try to make it as easy as possible.
For clarification though, by all means, like, city staff should do an audit. What I was proposing was if we see something, we bring it to your attention, this one definitely needs an audit.
Oh,
And we do still need that information going forward of how the event financially works out to better offer it to city council. So one way or another, that information, be really appreciated if it got to us.
Cause I know we.
and something like this is,
That would be fine.
right, okay, that's what I was thinking.
'Cause I
So when
know-
they give us
sorry.
that,
In previous years, they've said like, they turn it in and it says sponsor or fundraiser 0, but then we see. That they've been doing fundraisers and we question, they kind of. Like get offended, but now it's there that they need to
Right.
provide it, so that's gonna be helpful.
and we can put more instructions and guidance. Yes, we are looking for all of your revenue sources, not just the things that pertain to this area. We need to include the full picture.
okay. I'm running out of time here, so I need to be moving here. Future agenda item seems like it's gonna be the RFP for our next meeting. And it looks as if our next meeting is already scheduled for August 2.
Are you gonna put the TPA on that as well?
We can do that.
Jackie will add the tourism promotion area also as a mention.
And Tom, did we say did you want the tourism master plan and the tourism promotion area all in one?
No, they're separate,
One agenda item,
they're separate.
Separate agenda.
separate agenda? All right, any other agenda items for August 2nd other than reviewing? You probably sort of the enough on that one.
Yeah, it usually takes a whole meeting to do that.
Are we talking about you on August 2nd?
Yes,
Okay, is that okay? Maybe you said 8 AM or 5 PM.
I will not be here anywhere in town on August 2nd, so I will have to trust. I mean, I can either try to come in on Zoom.
No, it's now Lindsay,
Yes,
I was.
Who's chair?
Lindsay.
Yeah. Let me do this. So, I can try by Zoom. I'm not sure where I'm gonna be on that day. It is going to be a motorcycle adventure, and so I will be somewhere east of here, is all I can tell you. But I can try by Zoom. I've done meetings by Zoom before on my trips, and it's been successful. I've actually chaired council meetings when we were meeting on Zoom, and nobody knew 100% sure where I was, which was interesting. But I can do my best to try to do that. Anything else we need to bring up? All right, well then we are adjourned, and Thank you, everybody, for your participation. I apologize for me having to catch up as fast as possible to what's been going on. Fortunately, I've been the chair of this committee before, but been out of it for a couple of years. I'm not quite sure where we left off this last night. So thank you for your participation and your patience. Monica, thank you for being here. And
Thank you, Sarah.
just here.
Well, right. Oh, it's adjourned.
Yes, yes. You may.
Yes, great.
And Monica, do you want to meet with me after this?
I might have just a couple minutes, but I think I'm gonna ask someone else to be with us.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good.
Yes, and you probably don't have, so,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, I-
no, that's okay. Anyways.
I'm gonna go look them down for you.
Cameras.
Yeah, definitely get with Trevor.
And our, it's international. And our V part.
Yeah, and so that are still, so bills and stuff back and forth. Wait, because I really.
These are copies of receipts from 2020 through 2022. We're on 2023 next.
Yeah, it's definitely something.
Because I think if you got the page of it, right? What's that? You know.
And then I'll go check receipts and then done.
Yep.
And it's no.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. Right, and no, and my goal is, my goal is to get people excited about that. That's my goal.
Yes. And then if you wanna engage and listen and to see that this is gonna,
Yeah,
that's what I think it might be a hurdle, I'm just saying it might be a hurdle.
yeah, no, and I know that, and coming from. Previous. I was there, we ever hear the whole plaza debacle?
Is that, what is it, oh,
Oh, you're right.
oh no, I was thinking the Plaza Mall,
Oh, Joe Moyer.
was it Terway, I thought his name was, who was that?
Oh, no, that guy, no, not that guy.
Okay, that's way far back, that's how old I am,
Yeah.
Trevor, that's how old I am. You said,
Okay, started today.
Yes.
Okay.
You
I'll be
you
reading the white phone,
you
but
know,
otherwise,
uh-huh,
But no, the
Okay.
downtown plaza. I worked with the planning division when the city burned. Burned residents. Burned city residents about $14 million. Projects.
Shane, yeah.
His office is when you go to the rest.
City's been apologized.
oh, I did.
Yeah.
And sometimes people might even though that was in Yakima, some people might even jump on that, you know,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen in Yakima, what's gonna happen here,
Mhm.
you know, that it's just. Oh,